Alright, hello class. Uh, Hopefully you've logged in, you've managed to find everything you need. This file is going to be posted under Excel to chapter work under the module for this week. And I have been kind enough to basically type in everything you need for you. Now the actual assignments for this chapter actually starts on page 65. I've actually done the first couple of pages for you by putting in all the information for you already. I know that's awfully kind of me, right? But I've typed everything in here. Now it should look pretty much just like this. So quite kind, no exceptions. Now, once you open this, you can just basically follow along with this video. I may have to break it up into a couple of different parts, but for the most part, we should be able to get through it fairly quickly. I'll do about half of this, showing you formulas and various other things, and the other half you guys will do on your own. Now, chapter 1 was all about the formatting, doing some totals. We had done one small formula. Chapter 2, on the other hand, if you notice what I've got here, I've got a couple of columns of numbers, a date, and then there's some empty spaces. These empty spaces are where my formulas are going to go. Now in chapter 1, you really could kind of look at the picture and kind of get a really good idea of what they are asking you to do without even reading the directions. You still probably would have missed some stuff if you didn't read the directions, but in chapter 2, if you don't read the directions, you will not get any points for that assignment because the directions will ask you to put in a formula, this formula, this formula. And if you watch this video and pay attention, you should be able to get through this relatively quickly, and it will actually help you improve the other assignments. Even if you're not done with the chapter 1 assignments, you'll be able to do those faster with some of the stuff you learn here. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, formula-wise, our very first thing, now I didn't pick any of these numbers. I didn't pick any of the formulas or anything like that. We're just going to follow what the book says. Now there's this art supply store, and apparently they got some employees. They all have email addresses, how much they worked, and how much they're paid per hour. Gross pay would be, well, their hours worked times their hourly pay rate. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we're going to start doing some formulas. Now there is one thing I want to do first. You may have noticed that if I click on a couple of these, obviously you can't see everything. Well, you're going to format some stuff later. But there are one or two things I do want to adjust before we start. This first one would be this hours worked. Now, a couple of the assignments will ask you to put in some column titles and stack them on top of each other. If you look at your book on page 65 in Excel chapter 2, if you're using the ebook, I'm not quite sure where that is, but it shouldn't be too far into it, the module 2. You'll see that hours worked is actually on top of each other. If you press Alt and Enter, it'll end up moving this underneath it. Now I have to be like right in the middle when that happens. So I just click in my cell, 1, 2, right in front of work. If I press Alt, Enter, it'll stick it underneath it. Now it looks like it's erasing the next cell, but it's actually not. This is all one. If I click off of it, it actually resizes everything for me. I'm going to do the same thing to hourly pay rate. And right in front of pay, I'm going to hit Alt Enter. And it stacks it on top. The others we'll just leave alone for now, since the book doesn't ask us to actually do any changes there. Now, gross pay. I'm going to do these formulas right here, right up here. And then I'm going to show you a really quick way, which you already should have seen in chapter 1, and I think I should display it in the previous video, on how to actually copy these formulas down quickly. Now, gross pay. Whenever you're dealing with the formula, it always starts with equals. Now, if I just type in a number, 4 plus 4, nothing happens. If I type in an equal sign in front of that, however, Excel will do the math. Like I mentioned before, it's a big fancy calculator. Well, this is where it does its calculations. Now, my gross pay is hours worked times hourly pay rate. So hours worked would be D4. Now, one of the common errors people tend to make is they'll see the formula says hours worked, and they will click here. And notice it put D3 here. Can I multiply hours worked times the word hourly pay rate? No, the short answer is no. You can't multiply two words together. I want to multiply the number in the row that I'm in. So I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to multiply times. And you notice this stopped squiggling. I click on another one, and I got E4. You could also write it out. Equals D4 times E4. Either way works just fine. I prefer the click method. Now when I press enter, $1,268.938. Yours may be slightly different depending on your resolution, but it should be roughly that number. Well, now I could, as of right now, do the rest of these, but I'm going to hold off on that. We could go in here one at a time, do exactly the same thing. That's kind of tedious and time consuming, so we're going to use a shortcut here in just a few minutes. But let's go ahead and do the rest. Now, federal tax. Let's go ahead and put in that formula. Federal taxes obviously are always complicated, so just follow along with me real quick and I'll try to explain as best as I can. We're going to start with equals 0, 0, 0.22. So times parentheses. I'm going to click on gross pay, so F4, minus dependents, so C4. And then we're going to multiply times 24.32. And currently this formula is on page 67 if you're interested. And I'm going to close the parentheses. Now if the book gives you parentheses in a formula, use parentheses. Reason for that is if you don't, things could be done out of order. For example, if I take the parentheses out of this, it will do the multiplication here first. Then it'll do this multiplication, then it'll do subtraction. If you remember the acronym, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, or whatever it's called, things will happen in a certain order in math. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, subtraction, addition, and all that. Or Aunt Sally, so I guess addition, subtraction. Well, it's going to do this in that order. Now, if I put parentheses, it changes the order in which it does things. So if the book has parentheses, put parentheses if you want the right answer. Most of the time, you are going to have them. Now, we have 22%, which is what this stands for. If I did 1 times a number, I'd have 100%. If you want to know how much you have to pay for something, let's say if it's 7% tax, 1.07 times the price, and that's your final total. So 22% times my gross pay. So however much I make, I have a couple of dependents, and we're going to subtract that. And now I told you before that multiplication happens first. So it's going to multiply 2 times 24.32. So in this case, I'll get 48.64. I'm going to subtract that from this, and then I will multiply that by 22%. So basically, for every dependent I have, I take $24 off my paycheck. So I have to keep a little bit more for taxes. Maybe I'd have to buy a drink or something pretty much. It's not much, but the more dependents you have, the more your gross pay gets reduced, so you don't get as much taken out. Now, I'm not going to say these numbers or anything are correct. This is what the book gives us. So that's what we're going to go with. I'm going to go ahead and press enter. And I should have 268.4655. Now, we're going to go ahead and move to the next one. State tax. State tax is a little bit more simplistic. Equals 0.04 times gross pay. So gross pay is here, F4. So we're basically just going to take a flat 4% for the state tax. Tax percentage? Well, let's take a look. A little more complicated, not much. We're going to equals parentheses or frowny face. Federal tax plus state tax, parentheses, divided by gross pay. So divided by is your backslash. And then I'm going to go ahead and press enter. Now, net pay is our last formula. And I'll simply have to just figure out, basically, how much do I have left after, we take away all these deductions. So, equals gross pay minus. And I'm just going to put a little parentheses, federal tax plus state tax. And I press enter. And boom, I've lost $300 and something out of my paycheck for taxes. Well, I know that seems like it kind of sucks. I guess somebody has to pay for the roads and whatnot. Now we get to fill out the rest of these. But we're going to go ahead and pause, and I'm going to continue this on the next video. I don't want these to get